the Aphelios themselves.
You know, I think they hovered that for Owner, right? He is a huge Viego player. And so maybe they're saying, hey, we might pick this. You might want to pick it early if you don't want us to steal it away. Viego Rise is definitely a great combination in terms of target acquisition, but also, you know, finishing it off and just early game pressure. It is very good. We got a big smile on Owner's face as he hovers in Italy.
He's been doing this a lot and then just picking meta junglers like Xin Zhao, so happens again.
Wow. Wow. Wow, that's crazy.
He's like, I will play in Italy once again, and they will say it's a bad draft and I'll still win. No, not today.
He's playing Viego in game 2. I know, it's crazy.
As the Jinx will be the common response to this. And, you know, the range that we've talked about with the Jinx is a really big thing into the Aphelios, but it's also the fact that she scales really well later on in a comp that is going to do very well scaling-wise. And then you give Kana your blind Jace because the Graves is banned, and you kind of have to do this. Like, as soon as, if I see a game where Kana, you know, plays a Gwen early on in the draft, like, I'll be like, wow, he's changing, like, he's evolving. But right now, it's kind of like, you don't want him on those. Give him the Jace, okay, give him the Graves if you can. And that's fine for T1 because they can just play a slow top side of the map, focus on getting the Aphelios ahead, focus on getting early plates down. They have the Xin Zhao, so they should, in theory, have control over bot side if they commit ganks there repeatedly. And that can give what is already such a deadly 2v2 lane for T1 a lot of power.
Yeah, very true. Zeus has been often relegated to kind of the Gragas, the Gnar, kind of these tanks in the top side. It's part of the reason why some of his numbers aren't super impressive as well.
Yep.
Just because of the champion pool that he is playing into. So he's going to go for that once again. Gragas, I believe, it was on like an 8-game winning streak. I don't know if it's still on that winning streak, but definitely very valuable here in the LCK. We do love it.
Yeah. Tough ban here for Nongshim right now because you don't know the route that Faker wants to take here into this Rise. And Corki is a great choice, I think, given the already strong scaling comp that T1 have with good disengage. But the next question becomes, like, do you just ban the LeBlanc because it's Faker and he's great at it and he can threaten you a lot? It's also fairly risky to pick the LeBlanc into this Jace.
You know what's coming is Ahri 4th pick. We've seen it already today twice. I don't know why. Teams are just all on this. We already saw that Faker's played it, right?
Looks like
it surprised me at all.
Nongshim are more concerned about the scaling aspect of the mid lane more than, you know, the pick potential side laning that Ahri provides. The Thresh pick here is fantastic for Aphelios, also denies it for effort on the other side.
My God.
And it's Carius Thresh, so.
I'm like getting scared looking at that. I forgot that T1 is the one team that seems to remember that Thresh exists.
They also banned the Tom Kench, so your safety is very low right now. And now effort, remember the very rough start he had on the Nautilus and then he never played again and Peter took his place? Maybe let's not do that one. Maybe let's do the Leona instead. And it is a lot sturdier of a pick into what T1 are running here. It kind of help zone out the Gragas, of course. You know, you can, you know, do a little bit of frontlining to help prevent T1's engage, the Xin Zhao, the Gragas that are going to come through. So I like it a lot here. As the final pick here is a little bit unclear, and I think we have a draft bug as well.
No, this is just effort. He always hovers Nasus.
Yeah, but I mean the timer is no longer.
Oh.
And it's no longer flashing, so.
Whoa. I mean,
Okay.
Hecarim, we've seen this before. I think into the Xin Zhao. Definitely a very interesting pick, not something we see all the time.
The Ahri to close it out, I mean, it has a lot of side lane power. You're very, very happy about playing this into the Hecarim too, because he's going to try to run at your team. You have so much disengage. You can catch him too after his ult is on cooldown. You can charm him, body slam him, hook him. Like, I think the Hecarim is actually a pretty bad pick in this scenario because of all the ways T1 can deal with it very efficiently. But you didn't have a lot of great options, you know, here as Nongshim. The Jarvan was taken away. Xin Zhao is on the other side. You banned the Lee Sin. In terms of meta picks right now, Hecarim has been one that's been hovered a lot here in the LCK, by Dread in particular, by Croco a lot of the time, but we don't actually see it locked in. Now, with Nongshim here, the idea with this Rise comp is always going to be playing around trying to get ahead early, use your Realm Orbs in conjunction with the Hecarim. Because later on, all those disengaged tools I talk about make it so difficult for Hecarim to actually play the game and actually do anything of relevance outside of having a big ult on a flank angle. And the scaling here for Nongshim is not abysmal because they have a Jace, right? They have the poke that comes with Jinx. They can chip out the Aphelios. So it's a more well-rounded version of the Ryze comps we've seen in recent times.
Kind of wish we would have seen the Viego that was hovered a bunch, but it doesn't seem like Dread wants to hop onto that one once again. So, you know, can be hard into so much disengage to really have too much of an impact unless you do get ahead early on that pick. So just opting into the heavy engaged champ instead. Either way, guys, we are going to jump onto the Rift for match 50. Nongshim RedForce up against T1. And,
you know, there's so much to talk about for T1. And, like, they are by far and above our strongest team right now here in the LCK. And we talked about how great the players are individually. And I think the big standout for me with T1 is how well they cross-map. If they are losing out on one side of the map, they're always getting something on the other. There's almost never a moment where you see T1 net negative on a play. Whether it's a Rift Herald, whether it's a gank on the top side or the bottom side, they almost never trade down. And so their gold numbers are really fantastic. They get really nice leads. And a lot of people call this team an early game team, and a lot of people are calling them that in summer because they were aggressive once Owner was on the main roster. But I think it's just that they understand how to punish any sort of gank plays. And Owner and the communication with Faker and Zeus always means that they're tracking where the enemy jungler is, and they look for plays. As BDD takes some damage here, get that first electrocute proc.
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think that's a mark of a team that's very difficult to defeat, right? Because you feel like you're getting a win, but actually you're just kind of going even, and then you get hands diffed. So diffed a little bit in the later stages, of course, macro diffed as well. Note that there was only one Biscuits taker on the side of T1, and it was the Gragas up in the top side, and that's the lane where I think maybe you would want it the most, just to make sure you survive against the Jace. Other than that, a lot of other choices in the inspiration tree that are also very strong that were taken this time around.
Yeah. Take a look at some of these win rates here. Kana 0-2 on the Jace, but it has been, honestly, his most famous pick. You know, love it or hate it. I always say this with Kana because I feel like Kana has as many fans as he has haters for some reason, and I'm not sure why that is because I think he's a very fantastic player. He's got a good attitude about the game, and, you know, we have to give credit to the fact that this is a pick he loves to play, and he is so good at it. Despite the fact that it looks like, oh, 0-2 versus AS is 4-0, and T1 is the better team. There's no chance. That's not actually really what's going on here, and he is going to dominate the early part of this laning phase. Speaking of early laning phases, Faker having a little bit more trouble in his here against the Ryze push.
Yeah, especially early on. I saw that Faker was a little bit too close when BDD hit level 2. BDD did get a great trade. There's the hook already to start us off. They're not exactly looking for the kill, but again, another fantastic trade here as Keria finds and threads the needle onto Ghost.
He does this at level 2, like, every time while the minion wave is crashing, he makes it happen. Like, this is just, like, a thing that he does. It's not like he's the one putting the pressure on. They're winning the lane. He's just looking for these insane hooks under turret. As if you make a misstep against this player, you're going to lose the trade. You're going to have to back early, as now Ghost has to do. And if you mess it up a little bit closer to the turret, you actually just straight up die. And Keria has killed people, you know, at 3 minutes into the game with these hooks. It's why this pick is so deadly. It's a great denial pick, again, for taking that away from effort, because the Jinx Thresh is also very good. And, I mean, I don't think there's no way to overpraise Keria's Thresh. Like, it just cannot be done. Physically impossible.
I do agree with you there, especially this one champion. But we'll have to wait and see what we have in store for the play in this game. Don't want to overhype it and then have him fall flat on his face. Doesn't happen very often, but...
We also do...
It is a possibility.
Yeah, and we also do very often see the Jinx push the first wave into turret, then go get a call. Effort's here.
Yeah, Faker's in a little bit of trouble. Keria is coming up first from the bottom side, and there is the Lantern. Gets him away from the Ryze and the Hecarim. Dread and BDD, who were clamping down from the top side. So Keria with a very nice aggressive save play there onto Faker.
Yeah. Faker's not going to lose too much in lane, even though he got very far away from it there for just a moment. He's going to be fine. It's the Drake, here spawns in 30 seconds. Bottom prio here going over to T1 for the moment. And they will go ahead and get that early back. Well, I say that. It's like they're sticking around a little bit longer. I think with the wave here, definitely push a little bit harder.
Yeah. They don't want to lose this whole wave.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick that up. We do have Dread down here, but it doesn't look like he wants to go. Oh, as I say that, he is trotting down. Not going to commit to it, though.
It's hard, with Thresh on the other side to actually commit because he's got the flay. He can hook you, try to turn it under turret if you go far. And they had the ward there. So it wasn't really a greedy play. Push the wave in, like you said. Don't miss those minions. Go ahead and back. Faker's Ahri last time he played it was, I think, the best laning Ahri we've seen. He's got a tougher opponent this time in D. I jinxed him, though. He misses the charm.
I love how he was just backing in the face of BDD. Does not care. Of course, no skin on this Ahri, as is the Faker way.
Curious here. BD respecting this. They do not know where Owner is. So he just really wants to secure this back here. And if BDD tried to force the issue, it could be a hard punish. They're also putting a lot of pressure on BDD as he hits level 6. Notice also that Owner sticks around the top side, because that's where you see a lot of these Rise level 6 timings here to try to kill the Gragas before he's got his cask. Not going to happen this time, as take a look at Ahri's win rate.
Yeah, 3-2 so far in LCK Spring 2022. Faker over the course of his career is a 75% win rate on it, 9-3. As you mentioned, very good at laning the last time around. Also taking the teleport, which we do like to see. Especially in pro play, it's so hard to get value out of that Ignite.
Especially against a Rise, to have kill pressure there is relying on your jungler, not really something that you're going to be able to have control over. Is still Owner hiding his position here very well.
They pinged it like 3 times, though, so I feel like either they saw something or they have a great read on Zeus just feeling very comfortable.
Well, it's such a telegraph play from Nongshim. With his comp, you hit level 6, you have the ability. Before Zeus hit 6, he now does have, of course. Before he has that defensive cast, you go for the Realm Warp in with a Hecarim, and then you blow up the Gragas, grab some plates for your top laner, and Kana's very happy with this, right? This is how Nongshim play around the Jace so often. And unfortunately for them, the Owner was there. Whether they saw him or not, they realized, okay, well, we don't know where he is, and they could turn this with the Xin Zhao if we mess this up. So they don't actually commit. And instead, looks like we're going to see this very aggressive Kara-style Realm Warp bottom side. We saw this from Hanwha Life Esports yesterday.
Yeah. We do have Owner on the right side of the map, but he's not currently here, as doesn't look like BDD felt comfortable to go in on that one. No level 6 on the Leona either, so just going to walk back up to the top lane, or rather the mid lane. No harm, no foul. I mean, he didn't really miss anything, so just seeing if there was an option available. Both teams playing this early game very safe, very slow.
Yep, he will clear this instantly because he's Rise. And
feels good, man.
Feels good, man. All the CS. 70-70, though, as Faker playing the early parts very well. What?
He's just like dancing, like, stop moving right around the Raptors. Like, if that were solo queue, that mid laner is 100% just queuing all the Raptors, taking it away, and then they start fighting and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Not in this.
It just feels like Faker has a lot of fun when he's playing the game nowadays. In a good way.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, Faker has looked so happy with this roster. And, we've talked about how he is basically de facto the coach for this team. Mm-hmm. Even though Polt's on stage with him, Polt has a lot of his own esports experience. They've got Moment, etc., backing up the stats. But, Faker runs a tight ship. And when he's happy and the team's happy with him, it's a 9-0 T1, right? And They have complete control over the Rift Herald right now.
Yeah, it does look like Nongshim do want to fight over this, though, as they have a bunch of guys in their effort, though level 5 still. T1 have pulled it over to the right side. Effort and Ghost go over the wall. BDD's going to have to walk. Shock Blast hits, but it's not really doing too much damage this early on in the game. It's going to come down to the eye hit, and it's stolen away. The smite is there. Dread will pick it up and trot away with that one. There is no further engage for T1.
Yep. Really nice patience here for T1, though. We talk about this a lot, but T1 in summer last year, right before Worlds, would have fought for that 10 out of 10 times, and even if you gave them a redo, they would have actually tried to force that. But in this case, patiently back off, use the prio they had around the bottom side of that Herald fight to just turn this into a great trade. Unfortunately for them, they will not be able to get those 2 plates for Guma in the bottom side of the map here, even with the wave there, because of the timing of Ghost and Effort coming over. Because we often do see Guma pick up these 2 plates, and it's like, oh, well, we didn't get Herald, but this is fine. But they grouped up as 5 here, as the positioning here for Dread is really nice. Surfing around the edge, and T1 can't get any closer because he can ult into them. Smite's missed.
Oh, he tried to hit the eye, but he missed.
Yeah.
And then he smited, and then Dread was like, thank you very much. I'll smite that at 300.
It's tough because Dread is, you know, standing right there, and he could ult you if you actually go any closer as the rest of T1's comp.
Also, I will say that it is kind of hard sometimes to hit the eye.
It can be very buggy.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's like you feel like you're behind it, but you're like inside the model, and it doesn't quite register sometimes. So that is one thing I will say. Not sure if that's what got him there, but either way.
I thought you were going to say that's not sure if that's what God intended.
Yeah, true.
The Rift Herald, like, when it charges and then turns around on the wall and you can't get behind it and hit it with some jungle champions too, you're just like, oh, please. Just like, I just want to hit the back of it.
Good times.
We've all experienced this.
Yeah.
It's very relatable, what you described.
It's very true. And, yeah, I mean, it's 11 minutes and nobody has gotten first blood just yet. They traded objectives, but I think objectively, Nongshim's one is a bit better with the Rift Herald. We'll be curious to see where they do drop. It looks like they do want to go top. But T1 are setting up for this. Zeus and Owner might have a little 2v2 action up on the top lane here.
Faker can defensively teleport here to the turret to try to turn this if they extend hard. Faker, I don't think wants to do this. Obviously, just wants to hold the wave here and push BDD back down. He does not have teleport, but of course has the Realm Warp. And they do not commit, as they just don't have enough control over this just yet. And Kana is not getting the resources he wanted this game, unfortunately, so far. The Realm Warp plays haven't been topside. We haven't seen BDD Realm Warp bottom either, so this Rise early game has been very much, you know, passive, and it hasn't been getting Nongshim the leads they want.
Yeah. Carrier took a little bit of a detour. Looked like he was going top, and then he started to go back down to the bottom side once again. And the bottom lane is slightly winning to the side of Ghost of Effort and Effort. They do have some more of those plates there. As it looks like this time around, Owner has successfully snuck into the brush.
Yeah. Faker off vision right now, as Carrier will have to flash this. Faker hiding, and BDD is actually playing this game of chicken with him right now. Like, ooh, is he going up? Do I need to go up in Realm Warp? Okay, there he is. He's back. We're going back. As the more that T1 stall this and keep Owner up here, like, sure, he's losing some farm, but Dread is also staying here, and finally they will drop this, but time was ticking down big time, which is a win for T1.
And is Owner going to complete that back?
Nope.
The answer is no, but there is a scanner. Look at this. Oh, he spotted him. I think he definitely saw him there.
He definitely did.
Yeah, it's going to be a 3-on-3. The Rift Herald hits, and in goes Owner. Going to boot back the Rise right into the rest of T1. As the ult has to be used to get away here for Dread. But will he get away is the question. Lots of damage does come out there from Faker, but no follow-up. A lot of plate gold will go into the hands of Nongshim, but they lose tempo here on the top side.
They certainly do. And losing your Rise also really hurts. You know, he doesn't have teleport. Faker can go back here freely without any concerns. And Guma is going to get a plate on the other side here, split with Keria. So you're feeling really nice. You're feeling really good here about T1. It's a nice defense. Owner's rotation over was perfect, and the Crescent Guard knocking the Rise in is exactly what you want. And could be a little bit critical of BDD's positioning, but he didn't know where Owner was. And also, to Dread's credit, like, he saw him at the last possible second and was being very diligent about trying to spot this out. Like, they were not really caught with their pants down per se. It was just a really nice sneak from Owner to get over there.
Yeah.
And Nongshim, like, they were being really careful about trying to spot this out. They didn't in the end, but that's credit to Owner rather than mistakes by Nongshim, or we knew like, Nongshim just weren't aware. No, they definitely knew this was a strong possibility.
I really wish I had access to their comms in that exact moment on the side of Nongshim, because, like, the scan comes down, but then there's no pings, and it's like, yeah, like he saw him, but did he see him?
Yeah, exactly. Like he physically could have seen him, but were his eyes on that?
No pings at all. Just, I don't know. I'm not 100% convinced based on watching the replay once again, that they did see him in fact. But, I mean, especially with the setup, it was very obvious to T1 that they were up there.
Comms. Doesn't say anything.
Hey,
Yeah, I don't think he actually saw him.
yeah, like, he was on.
I mean, he said Moya at the end. Like, he was definitely confused.
Yeah.
He was like, so...
Okay.
That's exactly what we needed.
The question is answered.
Yeah, he didn't know. And that explains BDD's positioning. But at the end of the day, like, they still checked, right? And that's, like, so unfortunate here for Nongshim because they did their due diligence. It's just still... Unfortunately, wasn't looking at that because he's so focused on the play that needs to be made in hand. And this is like the highest level League of Legends right here. Like, one small mistake like this, even though you did your due diligence, like, actually gives you false sense of security.
Ghost, he has Cleanse and he has Flash. They're going to get the hook onto Ghost there as going in here is Effort. The Charm is going to miss. Do they have the damage onto Effort is the question, though. They absolutely do. 4v3. They will collapse on down there as BDD just going to stick mid.
Akana will get a little bit of pushing done here on the top side, but won't be able to secure this turret. So not a huge win here on the other side of the map here for Nongshim. And there's a cast.
Very nice setup. He's not going to have kill pressure, but that's a nice way to, boot the Jace out of the lane, take some of that pressure off.
The really cool thing here for T1, even though they have, a small gold deficit, is that they have the ability to threaten Soul Point very well right now. And with the composition they're running, it's starting to come online. The Gale Force is up for Gumayusi, right? And Ari does have her Everfrost here, so there's ways to control vision very well and very safely now as T1. And making plays like this, is very proactive. It's a really nice solar flare from Effort. Decides to engage in, but it's a war of attrition you cannot win here. 4v3 as Nongshim. And then they still, like I said, T1, their cross map, like, they still shut down the Jace. Like, they still were able to stop him from getting that inner turret at the same time.
Keria also buffing the hook on that play. Very nicely, buffering, I should say. The hook on that play. This time, Owner's going to get the steal. It's on the less important Rift Herald, but he got his revenge. And, we say less important, but it can still get some really great pushing power down wherever you do decide to drop it.
And with the group up they have right now, they just might look for mid. Ooh, Keria, though, has to flash. Thought a fight might break out there, but just kind of holding our breaths here. As Faker is going to get some side lane done on the top side of the map. Ari can side lane so safely. And so Faker is going to be able to do this without pressure being punished. He does not, however, have teleport available, whereas Ryze has Realm Warp and teleport. So, he's going to be able to get here with less of a committal if he needs to. So T1 do decide to back off instead of trying to force the drop here in mid.
So we've had 2 kills in 17.5 minutes. There's been a lot of shuffling around the map and a lot of high-level play that we have seen, but not a lot of kills overall. And it might be a little bit of a product of that, of course, the high-level play. As we do see the biggest lead is in the top side. The Jace kind of doing what he does, kind of playing that very well.
Yep, going for the Eclipse build. Done are the days of the Hullbreaker Jace start, I think. We've learned how that went. In this matchup, you don't need it at all, so it would have been very silly if that actually went down. Now, Faker, once again, just going to come up here and try to harass this Ryze, continue sidling against him. The Ryze has push advantage, even with Ari starting to get some points into her queue. But there is kill pressure if Faker gets a charm, and there's a teleport available for Zeus, something like that. Like, you can actually kill the Ryze, so you have to be respectful here as BDD.
CT1 are the ones that are being a little bit more proactive, just especially Owner and Keria moving together and looking for opportunities. There's the Hex Flash once again, very close on the hook onto Ghost, but he has Cleanse, so okay, looking for a little bit more as the charm is going to hit the turret. He hit the turret, not any of the champions though.
Yeah. Ghost, though, still gets slowed by the Everfrost and gets hit by a Q, and now he's down to 1/3 health. You can see the pick potential is definitely there with the Ari. Fortunately for Faker, it's not going to be the pick this time around, as Dread looks for a steal.
Charm is there, but you can see Faker, he is showing a lot of respect there to BDD. Ryze not one of the easier matchups for the Ari, Generally, he can be a lot tankier than you are and kind of survive through your burst, especially even just picking up, some health items and Merc Treads.
Yeah.
Should be enough, especially early on in the game when the Ahri is getting the Everfrost herself.
If the Ahri gets a charm with somebody else, like I said, or if there's a Gragas coming up, things could be different, but ends up being just fine up here. BDD forcing Faker to flash, so that's a tool gone, right? He already used his ultimate, then he has to flash now, and so 20 seconds until this Drake, and look at how much vision T1 have on this. Faker going to be the one to push topside here, could teleport in at any time.
Yeah.
It's really tough for Nongshim to actually take this one away.
He's also going Rabadon's Death Cap, so not the Shadow Flame here. Just going to be stacking up as much AP as possible, as early as possible. And we'll see how that does work out for him. Generally, we see, a lot more of the Void Staff or
Shadow Flame,
Shadow Flame second. And with that route, I was expecting the Shadow Flame either way. T1 definitely grouping up as a team here in the mid lane. They have this Rift Herald. You can definitely try to drop this and then just go onto the Cloud Drake, but they're sticking around. I think they want to take a fight more than anything else.
They really do, and the Rift Herald here doesn't give them an opportunity for a clean one, so it's kind of lose-lose for Nongshim, though. Take this fight where you don't have prio and you don't have control while the Rift Herald is dropping, or walk away and then give over Soul Point to T1, which is exactly why T1 are in such a good position here. Despite, again, a small gold deficit, they have the objective lead. And this is what is going to be, and by that I mean a lead on the objectives, not objectively in the lead. That's up for debate. But
I made that pun earlier.
Oh, really? I missed out on it. But anyway,
it's okay.
What I mean,
it was a bad pun, is what I'm saying.
I do remember you saying that now, but it was like a little bit different. But yeah, you and I
slightly
are both,
different side.
Yeah, you and I are both making objective jokes, but anyway, my point is T1 get this for free, right? And there's no recourse for Nongshim, unfortunately. And we're already starting to get to a point where we saw in that last exchange Faker charmed the Hecarim, and it wasn't like to set up a fight. They could have gone for a pick if they had a little more damage. We're not quite there yet, as Gumuse is still working towards his collector right now. But T1 have great disengage. They have engage options as well. They have pick potential. It's very difficult for anybody to really go deep and clear vision outside of effort, right? Like, he's the one who can do it even better than the Hecarim can. He's going to be a little bit more safe at doing so. So it's really oppressive the way T1 are playing around the map right now, and Nongshim have very few options. Luckily for them, it is a Cloud Soul, so it's not the end of the world here, but once again, T1's macro is looking phenomenal so far.
Yeah, it's one of those games where it just feels like Nongshim, as you're mentioning, they don't have too many options, but they're definitely playing it very passively, and to give them the benefit of the doubt, I would say maybe in their minds they feel like, oh, we can scale into the late game, we can take better fights later on, it's just Cloud Soul, we'll be fine. And when you're looking at like Rise and Jinx, you do have a lot of scaling, even the Jace can be very annoying later on in the game, especially if he has a good early game like he has. But it's not like T1 are any slouch in the late game either.
I remember the crazy, Khalid flanks on the Hecarim, the Krako Hecarim flanks in the late game. We've seen games decided by a Hecarim just going behind enemy lines and having the sick wraparound into a big ult and trapping the entire team. You can't make that play if you don't have vision. So Nongshim actually using the Jace to push bot and actually sweeping vision across the entire midpoint of the map, across the top of the map to the bottom as well. Maybe a little bit of a hole here. But otherwise, from the top of the map to the bottom of the map, in the river, look at all the wards they have down. It's really easy now to find where T1 are trying to wrap around.
It's a long spear, guys.
Yeah. And so I do feel like there are ways for Nongshim to win fights and potentially grab a pick. It's just going to be a bit of a lull here, though, in the scaling aspect.
Yeah, I mean, while we're here in this lull state, I think that, we talked a little bit about Faker's build before. Note that he has basically no magic penetration at this point. He's going into a lot of MR already, even in just 4 Merc Treads, but also the Tank Rise build that we do have coming out here and to Hecarim. So I think absolutely next item has to be Void Staff if he wants to be more relevant for the next fight. Other than that, pretty stable, pretty standard. I think, same build for the Rise and the Gragas is kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, Faker's build isn't terrible for side laning, so
Yeah.
Another cast here on the Kana, but this time he's not alone.
Yeah, Owner is running on down the Cloud Rift, going to help out with rotations like that. But kind of just a little bit too smart.
Zeus like, if you guys were just a little bit closer, man, I've had 2 of these this game. But as you mentioned, too aware is Kana. He's going to get out of here just fine. It's going to be a bit of a slower mid-game here until this Drake spawns, but the question is, can Nongshim set up for this fight and win it? They have better vision. They have Prio on it currently. And because T1 they have side laning in this Ahri, but they don't have like real split pushing, strong, powerful side laning. It's a Gragas on the other side, so the 1-3-1 isn't threatening. But T1 has a very limited approach to this fight, and that is that they probably just have to take it, right? Like they won't be able to threaten any inner turrets here. Both outers on top and bottom are still up right now. So I think as T1, you don't have a great option besides fighting, but your team fighting comp is online. Collector's done here for Gumayusi. And so if you can slow it down, you will get some value, right? Ahri is going to try to get that outer turret right now and maybe able to get the inner if they can really, really halt Nongshim's setup.
Yeah. You know, you talked about the side laning for the Ahri with this AP build. It's actually great. You do more damage to the turrets, you know? You're chunking down the minions, chunking down the turrets. Makes it faster, and every second does count, so yeah, I like that point, actually.
That's what I was saying earlier, like, it's a side lane build, right, you know?
Yeah. It's nice. He did go for stopwatch next, and, you know, the Zhonya is a very strong item on the Ahri, especially you go in, you use a couple of charges on your ultimate, you stopwatch, then you come back out with a third charge, stuff like that. But again, you know, lack of magic penetration can hurt him as more stats come online.
So Drake started here for Nongshim. T1 are going to try to trade it for a Baron. They've got full vision control here. This is brilliant. Now, they are spotted. And so Nongshim have some time here to come over here and stop this. They've already gotten the Drake, so that part is secured. But will they be able to set up for a team fight here? Remember, the Ahri can shut down the Hecarim's engage so very well, unless he finds a nice angle. You know, even after his ult, you know, the turn here is so good for T1. So I appreciate that they set up for this, but because Nongshim spotted out, they don't actually get the start off. And we're going to go back to another lull state here.
Yeah.
Back to farming.
I'm glad you mentioned that turn on the side of T1 because it's like one of the best compositions you could potentially have in terms of turn off of an objective. And I think that's really going to benefit them. I think that Nongshim's is pretty good as well. But just, I mean, you think about Gragas, you know, Body Slam and a Cask. You think about a Thresh, the Flash. Even a Gravitum, Moonlight Vigil can get the job done. Obviously, Ahri and Xin Zhao need no introduction there. So just to break that down a little bit further, I think it's a really good point. And T1 from ahead are going to be a scary T1. Kind of interesting that they felt like, oh, well, we don't really need to get that Cloud Drake. Let's just chill. You know, let's just keep scaling.
They weren't in a position to where they could, I think, grab hold of it. It was fairly risky. And when you're already on Soul Point, and you had a little bit of control over Baron, you could threaten the Baron setup, or you could take a risky fight that could plunge you into a pretty big gold deficit if you botch it at the stage in the game. So I like the restraint here from T1, given the lead that they have. As, you know, we are now seeing the first part of that Void Staff come through for Faker. He is going to hit a big spike with that one later on. As no vision here. Again, the control ward coverage is super good.
Here we go. Australia is on in. The charm is going to miss. I like that they're going for it because you can see a couple of abilities and Ghost is gone, right? And, you know, I talked about this build for Faker so many times, but all of that AP is going to be fantastic against Jinx. Yeah. Not so much against the other players on the team, but against Jinx, hell yeah.
It's also just like the amount of disengage that we've talked about can be used aggressively here too. Like whenever he does this, carry his lanterns there, it's almost like Faker is spacewalking. You know, like he's out there with his ult and he's looking for the charm and he's got the lantern. He's got one hand attached to the lantern and the other hand's blasting out orbs. Like he's spacewalking across the map and he's got so much mobility. That's Ahri for you, and with the Thresh in this composition, Faker can fish really, really far. Like he's got the long cast line. And in this case, they almost get Ghost, right, as you mentioned. And still, unfortunately for T1, nothing they can do safely right now until this next objective. So we're just kind of sitting back and waiting.
Faker is going for Void Staff next, which I do enjoy. It's a great choice in this position. And Jace is becoming a problem, though. You're seeing this a lot. You know, it hasn't really come into a more obvious light because we haven't had big plays on objectives yet. It's a lot of like just trading objectives and not a lot of fighting. But, you know, if T1 take a long time to take an objective, you're going to eat multiple shock blasts that are accelerated. And there's a bunch of squishy members, especially a couple of your carries. You got to be careful about your positioning. Even Carrier, like, he can only take one or two of those before he has to back.
Look at Guma's health bar, right? And it's a good point. Kana wasn't given the resources to explode on this Jace in the early game, but he still side laned extremely well and punished T1 for grouping up on these early Drakes. So got tons of plate gold as well as a few turrets under his belt. So he's now got his 3 items online and is ready to fight, ready to chip away at the health bars. Doesn't want to run into a Gragas necessarily here, but the rest of his team is nearby. And the setup here for this next Drake, I think, for Nongshim could just simply be continuing to fight for this vision around Baron and forcing T1 to react.
Oh, man. It feels like T1 is trying desperately to fight, but Nongshim they want none of that party. They're like, no, we're going home.
I mean, the thing about Nongshim is if they just sit back like this, then you hit a shock blast, and then suddenly the enemy AD carries lost a third of his health and will have to back away. Nongshim not willing to pull the trigger just yet on starting the Baron, although I think they have such an insane amount of damage. Yeah. They're just scared if T1's engaged. Their pick potential already goes over the wall. You have this Gragas. It's so difficult to actually start it without heavy risk, and that's why these teams are playing it so slow. The risk of actually being the first one to start that is too high. It's easier to be the one who attacks those who are trying to defend their Baron take than to be the one to take it.
They saw that ability, the Q thrown out there from Faker. Here we go. Realm Warp. See ya. I think Guma might have seen that. They're on vision, though. So T1 should know about this. And this is this damage you were talking about. Look at the Baron. It's already halfway done. They got toppers. We saw what that did in the last series. As Nongshim, they back off a little bit, but they have range. Faker goes in, but he cannot stop it from happening. As T1 now, they want an engage, but they haven't been able to get one all night. As the damage is coming out from the side of Nongshim, the poke, you see what the Jinx and the Jace are able to do. As T1, they're going to kill only the Jace, but the Baron goes into the hands of Nongshim.
So the defense of this Baron from Nongshim and their retreat was phenomenal. The ult there from Dread to help everybody get out. He gets out safely as well. And then all they get with this delayed flash body slam cask attempt from Zeus is the pick onto the Jace. And yes, this does give T1 a little bit more control of the mid lane. Already pushing bottom as well, but won't be able to get that permanent inner damage. And now Nongshim have full control over the map. Now, denying this would have been a pretty easy first step, but they didn't have bot wave control nor mid. So T1 actually turned their Baron play into a Cloud Soul. Thank you very much. You took the Baron, you had to back out, you had to retreat, we killed the Jace, so it's no longer a huge win for Nongshim, it's a trade.
As owner, he does have Crescent Guard, but he does not want to use it. Going back to something you said early on in the game, though, it's Cloud Drake, not as much. The charm is going to land here as the Everfrost will not. Neither will the Q. Victory's got one more charge. He's looking for it, but not going to. Well, here we go. The charm comes in and a flash from Ghost. That is a great flash. No cleanse. And if that hits, he's probably dead.
Yeah, 100% worth. This Faker's level 17. Not the longest cooldown on his ultimate, so he should be fishing as much as he can at this stage in time. And they're really slowing this Baron buff, right? I mean, this is so much resources committed to just get the outer turret mid, which they're still unable to do. They will eventually do so. There's like defending one cannon minion that Zeus is tanking. Burn down that Baron buff. 70 seconds to go.
I like how T1 are very aggressively posturing against this. And, they have some long range of their own, right? You talked about holding on to the space station by one hand with the Ahri, with the Thresh and the Lantern and stuff like that, but also the Aphelios has some nice range, as this poke is really getting out of hand. As the rocket not quite going to land.
The follow-up here is so difficult to execute for Nongshim because the positioning for T1 and the disengage in the turn is so great. As we'll watch this play one more time. Look at how cleanly Dread and crew actually disengage here. The box engage from Keria, not fantastic. Dread's ult here is pretty good. And Kana actually looks for a turn here, but then ends up getting caught Good play from Keria there. And then Nongshim have to back away. But it was actually a really nice get out and then use the Jace to re-engage from Nongshim. But going back to the point I was going to make before this replay is if you try to follow up on the poke, you're walking into an Ahri, a Grog. It's like all the turn that we talked about for defending objectives works well for defending a turret too.
Will they see this? And will he go for it? Nope. Good job by Jonas Strong keeping that suspenseful. Owner not going to go for the Omega flank, but it was a pretty nice flank. I mean, there's no vision over there right now for Nongshim, but not trying to force a fight. Looks like
T1 have so much mobility with this Cloud Soul now, plus the 2 Solar Drakes. They have, you know, a lot of vision control here on the bottom side of the map. As we're going again, spacewalking.
Yeah, they're trying to catch efforts, but again, it is a Leona. Got to be careful about that, especially when you do not have deep vision in this jungle. But as you said, it's relatively low risk because of the champions. But still, gotta be careful.
So T1 could just walk back to base here, set up, defend the Jace push, and wait for the Elder fight. But Nongshim are also in a pretty good position to fight for this. Like, it looks like, oh, okay, 4 Drakes here, dead even on gold, but T1 is ahead, right? They have 3 kills and they have 4 dragons, but Nongshim actually have a comp that can win fights very well if it's executed correctly, and the poke that they have means that T1 won't be necessarily fighting at full health bars when they do decide to fight for that Elder. So this is still anyone's game to take. It's an incredibly close game actually right now here, the first one of this best of 3. Those items starting to come online really strong here for Faker. He now has the Zonias, so can stopwatch his way out of anything in any upcoming fight. Void Staff completed, one that we've been waiting for so much. It's a huge spike for him right now. And T1... right now, the whole goal here, I think, for T1, the main objective is going to be to make sure they have vision control around this Elder Drake no matter what, so that Jace can't actually chunk people down before the fight starts.
2 minutes ahead, and they're already clearing vision.
Yeah.
Should tell you a lot about how valuable this is. And, you know, you talked about stopwatches. We have 4 stases on the side of T1, whereas there are currently 0. Actually, on the side of Nongshim. So, actually,
well,
there is
Rise.
one. Yeah, Rise just picked one up. But yeah, still, that is, you know, it's a one-time use item, but it gets you so much value in a lot of spots. So Nongshim might want to consider picking some more of those up, or at least an elixir or something like that, because this next fight could decide the game, especially because it's 3-0 at 37 minutes. I mean, not much has happened in terms of kills in this one.
Well, this is also not the, you know, Frederick Brion Elder flip situation, right? Both of these teams are looking to hold that thought. Dread caught. See how much vision matters. See how difficult it is for Nongshim to walk into brushes because T1 have so much pick, so much turn. And so T1, because they have enough setup here to control both objectives and just push mid, Nongshim need the side lane. They need to pull T1 out somehow, but they're kind of running out of time. Like, Baron's up here. They've got the damage. Nongshim now have to just look for a fight. They're so slow to do this, and they had to clear mid. They have vision. They got to go.
Remember what you said about turn as well. They're going to play that very nicely, and the damage is there too. I mean, the Baron's already down. Nongshim, they do not have the vision. They do not have the ability to attack this team that has this amount of fantastic turn. As you see, T1 trying to fight their way through, trying to grind their way through this mid lane and get more position on this Elder Drake. It's the next big objective. Faker, he's got the elixir. He lands the charm onto Faker, or rather onto Effort. He's got the damage. Dread is in the back. He's like, well, I can't really engage now.
Remember what I was talking about with the Hecarim flank? There's just too much vision here. T1 spot him. They know where he is. He walks over the scuttle on his way out. T1 have the best objective defending comp ever. They could start it at any time because the turn is real. The defense is amazing. And this is what they've been fighting for the last 2 minutes. And now they've got control. Even the box. Stay away from my Elder. That's what they're saying.
Leona's not here. I mean, Effort is going to have to get realm warped over, but the Elder's almost down. Dread, I think he might go for the flip, and he goes, and he's not going to get it. As Zoner is going to take it down, and Dread will be executed. Finally, we get some more kills in this one, as the Moonlight Vigil over the top will miss. But Owner, he's got Elder buff and a Crescent Guard. He's going to go into all 3 of them, as this might just be the end of the game, guys. I mean, everybody on the side of Nongshim is getting wiped up as T1 finally get the job done.
Full ace here. And T1, they knew their win condition, they knew their objectives, they knew the turn they had. They fought for mid-prio tooth and nail, and when they had it, they got both. Nongshim couldn't walk into a no-vision Baron pit, and then when it came to Elder, they had to desperately try. They had to realm warp in, but it was not going to happen. Great team effort. T1 winning this game by their macro, their game sense. It's a low-kill game, but they take it in flying colors here with their ability to understand how to set up on objectives, which fights not to take. The first Rift Herald